Hi, and welcome to today's video, which is a video where I'll be answering some questions made through the comment section here on YouTube. And of course, as always, if you have questions about anything that I'm talking about in this video, and of course, just as importantly, if you feel you have questions about anything about Lifelover and our lives that was a big part of what I was doing around a decade ago, please let me know either here in the comments or even where I'm posting this on Facebook or Instagram. You can ask me things and I will do my best to make a good list of your questions, or if you have suggestions, that's also welcome. And I will cover them in the next video that I'm making, and not too far away after this I'm meeting up with my dear friend Johan, whom you may know as 1853, to make a few more videos where we're discussing different things. So of course, if you have questions that he and I feel that we can answer together, then we will do our best then. That said, keep in mind that many of these things are years old, but I've been there for most of the things, and for a lot of the times me and B used to have usually more than weekly calls when we were in frequent communication about different things, because we were more than co-creators of Lifelover. We were very close friends and what some may refer to as brothers. But enough about that. Let's get to the questions for this one. So I'll start with the cover photos where they were taken. And of course, in the video about Pulver, this has been explained enough, but for those that haven't seen it, you can find it on this channel here on YouTube. It's a meadow on a mountain in the city of Huskvarna, which is close to Jönköping. It's about 4 hours south of Stockholm and 2 or so hours east of Gothenburg. And the female on the cover is of course one of my friends, Eleanor. I don't have contact with her anymore for various reasons. And another question connected to this is how I found someone willing to do a photo session like that, and it's pretty simple. She kind of looked up to me and admired me in various ways, so it wasn't that hard. I simply asked her if she were interested in appearing naked in a photo shoot that I was making, and that wasn't anything that she had any concerns about. and it was more about the blood, which in that particular case is blood from cows, which can be purchased frozen at most stores here in Sweden. Not all of them have it at all times, so you need to go to the deli section or butcher and order it. And usually within a week they will have it in a half a liter containers. So we had a couple of those. And moving on to the cover picture of Erotik, that is a photo taken by Jonas B from a place called Kaknästornet, which is a pretty famous tower and landmark in Stockholm. So any fans interested in seeing that view, it's not too hard to find it. And if you visit the webpage for Stockholm, it will be there. And of course, if you're at the central station of Stockholm, there are several maps with sightseeing points and the maps and things like that. So you see, for example, the landmarks and what metro stations and other things that are nearby, like in any city, pretty much. Then onwards to Konkurs is once again nearby Huskvarna and walking by the lake Vättern on a route that I used to have going to work, but it's also a walk that I've taken with B the time that he visited me there. And during the winter, when it's cold enough, everything nearby that lake is pretty much frozen from waves and the humidity from the water. So it can look pretty spectacular, depending on the time of the day, if you have sun or not. It creates some pretty stunning photography possibilities, which I found while walking there, and then I went there for several days in a row to capture different light conditions, and depending on, of course, when it is during the day, it will be different possibilities to capture different kinds of focus and reflections in the ice and in the snow and the water and so on. And that's what we came to choose for that album. Then moving on to Decadence, which I'll talk a bit more about soon. I didn't have anything back then, and we had just recruited our drummer for that EP, and both he and Jonas had more photographs during that period of time. So we chose a few different photos and put them together. That was different suburbs in Stockholm. and metro platforms and things like that. Then onwards to sjukdom. It's little different because it was the first time, and in this case unfortunately also last, that I was working with another artist, one of my friends. His name is Robin Fjell, and we were hanging out at my mother's previous home, the mill, where we recorded many things with hypothermia and had 8 years of a festival called Kvarnriten, which the first 2 years we had pre-listening parties to Konkurs and Decadence with our fans, because me and B was there. And we were making like an art project with wood and barbed wire and blood and things like that out in nature around that area. So that's what that cover is. And as you can see behind me, the cloth that is from an art project between me and my mother for that place is one of the different pieces that was behind the wood and barbed wire and blood as well. You can see in the textures behind it. Not this particular cloth, but another meter or so from it that we had behind the sculpture that we made. So that's what I can say superficially about the different albums covers. And of course, if there would be any further questions, just let me know. And another thing connected to these artworks is questions about the drawings of the skeletons, the pinmen, that can be seen on the picture vinyl, for example, of Erotic. It's part of the old artworks and designs of the album too. And it's an old drawing by B that he made. I don't remember if it was to his shrink or school or a combination of it when he was a younger child that he found, and we thought it was pretty interesting. So as a little tribute to him, I decided to have that on the back of the picture vinyl because it has a nice mood to it. So while we're in the time era of the first albums, can answer the question about En Song om Dig, a song about you. It eludes me why someone would ask what it's about. I think that's in the title. But to make it a bit more clear, the inspiration behind it back then was a bit more something that we did make our efforts to mock and point out, not just with the name Lifelover, but also with a lot of the material there is on Pulver, was to some extent spit in the face of those who critiqued us for in our other bands and projects, and in general the true or die-hard metal fans, metalheads and Satanists and devil worshippers around the world that were mostly talking shit and claiming to have beliefs and ideologies and values that they don't really live by or can live up to, but for some reason they expect others to, or they're not real death worshippers or devil worshippers or Satanists, they were life lovers. So just try to write down a little lyric mocking them, and that's pretty much what that song is. And it seems like people still know us over a decade after that, but any of the people that were talking shit back then, they have all moved on to other things. And anything that they did back then has been long forgotten and turned out to be completely meaningless. So, congratulations to them. And the question about how different albums came together, well, I think that's a pretty wide subject, and that deserves a video by itself. So that's what I'm going to give it. I will do a second part to this video and going through some of my memories of how some of the different albums or songs that I was involved in were recorded, and where or when it took place, and what kind of equipment that we were using. But something that I can answer that is connected more to the photos and art that this video has been talking a bit about is simply the different pictures in the booklets. It's easier if any one of you have any favorites or questions about the context of some of them. I'm more than happy to do my best to recall that, if you just let me know in the comments. And one of them that I have a more recent question about that I can answer because it's written down and recent is Humörets bottenvåning. That's simply a typical picture of one of our parties at home of the bathroom in the apartment where Jonas lived during the recordings of Pulver and Erotik. And generally speaking, if it wasn't during a party or after party or during recordings that photos were taken, both me and B and some of the other members are or were avid walkers. We like taking walks at any time of the day, but especially night or when it's very early. Not just because it's less people then, but there's a certain kind of melancholic light outside then, and of course it's a bonus that usually the places are empty. So you get the melancholy and desolation and emptiness in some of its purest forms. And the context of many of the pictures in the booklets are simply to have something with a good mood and atmosphere that is either related completely to that moment and that recording, or at least to the mood that the song represents. And with that, I'm finishing this part of the video, and I'll get more into details in the second part. So thank you all for watching and taking your time. And I thank you for all the support for our dear beloved Lifelover that we have received over the years. It's deeply appreciated, and I'm looking forward to be sharing some different news that honors the legacy that is Lifelover. Because no matter what some of you may think or say, it represents an important part to me, and hopefully to many others, of history in music and art. And staying quiet about it is not the right way to honor its memory and legacy, I think. So I thank you all for watching and listening. And I hope there was something of interest. Let me know in the comments if you wonder about anything else, and if you like what I'm doing, consider subscribing or sharing it with your friends if you or them are not aware of the different series of different subjects and topics that I'm discussing and covering, either alone or with some of our friends. Hugs and drugs.